There's a hidden facility tucked away in the icy wilderness of Alaska, a place so remote and unassuming it might go unnoticed by most. But those who know about it believe it's anything but ordinary. This is HAARP, the High-Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, officially described as a scientific research station. Yet some claim it's the nerve center of a shadowy agenda, capable of manipulating the very forces of nature. What if hurricanes weren't random acts of nature but carefully steered weapons of destruction? What if droughts that devastate nations weren't caused by climate change but orchestrated by an invisible hand? What if earthquakes, those unstoppable harbingers of chaos, were no longer the work of shifting tectonic plates, but the result of deliberate, calculated interference? It sounds impossible, like the plot of a science fiction novel. But consider this. HAARP's massive grid of antennas sends powerful radio waves into the ionosphere, heating and manipulating this delicate layer of our atmosphere. Could this technology, officially described as a tool for scientific discovery, actually hold the key to controlling the weather, disrupting ecosystems, or even destabilizing entire regions? For decades, HAARP has been at the center of speculation. Its backers claim it's a harmless research facility, a project to study how the ionosphere affects communications. But to its critics, HAARP is something far more sinister. Some say it's a prototype weapon, a tool for altering jet streams, steering storms, and creating disasters. Others suggest its capabilities go even deeper, into the realm of mind control and global surveillance. Think about the implications. What would it mean if governments or private entities could control the weather? Imagine the power to withhold rain from a region, plunging it into famine, or to unleash a catastrophic storm, devastating an enemy without a single soldier setting foot on the battlefield. Such a weapon would be unstoppable, a force of nature wielded as a tool of war. And what about the earthquakes? Strange lights in the sky reported before major seismic events. Are these natural phenomena or the result of ionospheric tampering? The timing of these lights has led some to draw a direct line back to HAARP, suggesting that the energy it emits doesn't just reach the sky, but penetrates deep into the Earth itself. The secrecy surrounding HAARP only fuels the speculation. Why is a research project, supposedly aimed at improving communications, funded by military organizations like DARPA, the Navy, and the Air Force? These aren't agencies known for their interest in purely academic science. What do they know that we don't? Who controls HAARP? What are they doing behind its heavily guarded gates? And perhaps most chillingly, has this technology already been unleashed on the world without our knowledge? To uncover the truth, we must delve into the origins of HAARP, the accusations against it, and the mysterious science that lies at its core. Because the answers may change not just how we see this facility, but how we understand the very forces shaping our world. To understand HAARP, we need to go back to the beginning, to the moment it was conceived, funded, and built. The story starts in 1993, when construction began in Gakona, Alaska. Officially, HAARP was a collaborative effort to study the ionosphere, the layer of the Earth's atmosphere that affects radio waves and communications. But the deeper you look, the more questions arise. Why was HAARP funded by the U.S. Air Force, the Navy, and DARPA organizations deeply embedded in defense and classified operations? These are not entities known for sponsoring purely academic pursuits. Instead, their involvement hints at something much larger, something potentially far more dangerous. And then there's Bernard Eastlund, the physicist whose patents seem to have inspired HAARP's design. In the 1980s, Eastlund filed a series of patents for technology capable of altering the ionosphere. His work described methods for manipulating weather, disrupting communications, and even disabling satellites. These weren't hypothetical musings. They were detailed blueprints for what some might call the ultimate weapon. Eastlund's patents spoke of heating targeted sections of the ionosphere, creating artificial auroras, and even redirecting jet streams. He claimed his technology could influence global weather patterns, triggering rain or drought at will. In later interviews, Eastland hinted that his inventions could have military applications, raising the stakes of what HAARP might actually be. When HAARP began operations, its capabilities seemed to echo Eastland's ideas. A massive grid of antennas sprawled across 33 acres, transmitting high-frequency radio waves into the ionosphere. Officially, this was to study atmospheric phenomena, but critics weren't convinced. They pointed to Eastland's patents and asked, was HAARP's true purpose hidden in plain sight? From its inception, HAARP sparked protests. Environmental groups warned about the risks of tampering with the ionosphere, arguing that such experiments could have unintended consequences for the planet. Others questioned why a remote corner of Alaska had been chosen for this research. Was it simply for isolation, or was there a more insidious reason, such as keeping prying eyes away? The secrecy surrounding HAARP only deepened suspicion. Much of the facility's work was classified, with limited information shared publicly. When asked about its potential military applications, officials repeatedly denied any connection. But if HAARP was harmless, why were so many of its experiments conducted behind closed doors? As the years passed, strange phenomena began to be linked to HAARP. Unusual weather patterns, reports of electronic disruptions, and mysterious lights in the sky near the facility fueled conspiracy theories. These lights, similar to auroras, were dismissed as natural occurrences by scientists. But to skeptics, they were signs of ionospheric disturbances, the proof that HAARP was capable of far more than it admitted. And then there's the question of funding. HAARP's construction and operation required millions of dollars, provided by agencies with a vested interest in advanced technologies. Why would military organizations invest in a project that supposedly has no strategic value? What discoveries have been made that we're not being told about? The mystery deepened in 2014, when HAARP was abruptly shut down. Officially, this was due to budget cuts and a transfer of operations to the University of Alaska. But conspiracy theorists saw it differently. Was the facility being upgraded, or had its work simply gone underground? Even now, ARPA remains a lightning rod for controversy. Was it truly built for scientific research, or was it designed to weaponize the ionosphere? Could its technology be influencing the weather, triggering disasters, or even controlling human behavior? To answer these questions, we must move beyond HAARP's origins and examine the accusations against it. Because the deeper we dig, the more unsettling this story becomes. As HAARP's towering antennas began to pulse with energy, the facility quickly became a lightning rod for controversy. What started as curiosity morphed into suspicion, and that suspicion soon spiraled into chilling accusations. The most provocative of these claims suggests that HAARP isn't just studying the ionosphere, but manipulating it, turning the skies into a battlefield and weather into a weapon of unprecedented power. The idea of weather manipulation might sound like science fiction, but history tells a different story. During the Vietnam War, the U.S. military conducted Operation Popeye, a classified operation that used cloud seeding technology to extend the monsoon season over enemy territory. This deliberate flooding disrupted supply routes and created chaos on the ground. If cloud seeding could do this half a century ago, imagine what today's advanced technology might achieve. HAARP's ability to heat specific regions of the ionosphere has led many to speculate about its role in controlling jet streams. These fast-moving air currents, high above the Earth, dictate weather patterns around the globe. Shift a jet stream just slightly, and you could redirect a hurricane, create a torrential downpour, or unleash a drought. The question is, has this already happened? Take Hurricane Katrina, a disaster that devastated New Orleans and much of the Gulf Coast in 2005. Conspiracy theorists claim that strange energy patterns were detected in the days leading up to the storm, patterns that they believe coincided with HAARP's operational schedule. Could the hurricane's unusual intensity and path have been influenced by human hands? But weather isn't the only force HAARP has been accused of tampering with. In 2010, Haiti was struck by a catastrophic earthquake that killed hundreds of thousands and left the nation in ruins. Witnesses reported seeing strange lights in the sky before the quake, a phenomenon often attributed to electrical discharges in the atmosphere. However, some researchers believe these lights were a sign of ionospheric manipulation, a direct result of HAARP's powerful energy beams penetrating the Earth's crust. And then there's the 2011 earthquake and tsunami in Japan. This disaster claimed tens of thousands of lives and caused the meltdown of the Fukushima nuclear plant. Alleged electromagnetic anomalies were reported in the days leading up to the event, fueling speculation that the quake was not a natural occurrence. Could HAARP have been responsible? And if so, what might the motives have been? A warning? A demonstration of technological dominance? The droughts that have plagued Africa and the Middle East provide yet another layer of intrigue. These regions have faced prolonged periods without rainfall, devastating crops and causing widespread famine. Critics of HAARP argue that such droughts could be engineered by disrupting rain patterns through ionospheric manipulation. If this technology exists, it represents the ultimate weapon for economic warfare, crippling nations without firing a single shot. The accusations don't end there. Nations like Russia and China have openly accused the United States of using HAARP to destabilize global regions. In 2014, a Russian documentary suggested that HAARP could not only control weather patterns, but also generate earthquakes and tsunamis. The film alleged that such capabilities could be used to force political compliance or to punish adversaries. While these claims are dismissed in the West as propaganda, they reflect a global unease about the true purpose of HAARP. What makes these allegations so persistent is HAARP's secrecy. While skeptics claim its power output is too small to cause such dramatic effects, critics counter that we don't have access to all the data. Could HAARP's official capabilities be just the tip of the iceberg? What if its real potential has been deliberately downplayed, hidden behind classified documents and military jargon? Consider the possibility of cumulative effects. HAARP's experiments may involve relatively small amounts of energy at any given time, but repeated disturbances in the ionosphere could theoretically cause chain reactions. Could these cumulative effects influence weather systems, trigger tectonic shifts, or even disrupt global ecosystems? There's also the question of intent. If HAARP can manipulate weather, who controls it, and to what end? Imagine a world where entire nations could be punished or controlled through manufactured disasters. A hurricane here, a drought there, subtle, deniable, and devastatingly effective. Skeptics argue that the natural forces behind weather and seismic activity are far too vast for HAARP to influence. Hurricanes, they say, are fueled by ocean temperatures and atmospheric pressure, not radio waves. Earthquakes are caused by the movement of tectonic plates, not energy beams. But to those who question the official narrative, this skepticism ignores the possibilities of advanced, undisclosed technologies. And what about the strange phenomena reported near HAARP itself? Residents in surrounding areas have spoken of unusual energy readings, unexplained electronic disruptions, and flickering lights in the sky. Could these anomalies be evidence of HAARP's experiments bleeding into the visible world? The implications of weather control are staggering. Imagine the power to weaponize nature, to turn storms, droughts, and earthquakes into tools of war and dominance. Such a weapon would be nearly unstoppable, a force of destruction that could strike without warning, leaving no fingerprints behind. If HAARP truly has this power, the world as we know it could already be shaped by forces we don't understand. Wars might not be fought with armies anymore, but with weather. Economies might not collapse due to natural causes, but because someone decided they should. And the most chilling part? We might never know who's pulling the strings. The accusations against HAARP are as vast as they are unsettling. To understand whether this facility is capable of such feats, we must turn to the science behind its operations. Because the deeper we explore, the more questions arise, and the fewer answers we're given. To truly understand the controversy surrounding HAARP, we must confront the science, or at least, what we've been told about it. Officially, HAARP is described as a research facility designed to study the ionosphere, the electrically charged layer of Earth's atmosphere that begins roughly 50 miles above the surface. But could the science behind this innocuous explanation conceal something far more powerful? At its core, HAARP operates by transmitting high-frequency radio waves into the ionosphere. This energy heats small targeted areas, creating temporary disturbances that researchers compare to focusing sunlight through a magnifying glass. According to HAARP's official narrative, these experiments are meant to improve communication systems, enhance GPS accuracy, and study the effects of solar storms on the ionosphere. But critics argue that the very same technology could be weaponized. By heating specific regions of the ionosphere, HAARP could theoretically alter atmospheric pressure systems, redirect jet streams, and influence weather patterns on a massive scale. Could it create artificial droughts, intensify hurricanes, or even generate torrential rains in areas that were once dry? The potential is as staggering as it is terrifying. And then there's the Earth itself. HAARP's energy doesn't just travel upward, it can penetrate downward. Some claim that the facility's high-frequency transmissions could disrupt tectonic plates, triggering earthquakes or volcanic eruptions. Imagine a device capable of creating seismic chaos, wielded not by nature but by human hands. Skeptics dismiss this idea as fantasy, but unexplained lights in the sky and unusual electromagnetic readings before certain earthquakes leave room for speculation. HAARP's supporters argue that its power output is too small to achieve such feats. They claim the energy it generates is minuscule compared to the immense forces of nature. But critics point out that HAARP isn't operating in isolation. What if it's part of a larger network of facilities, each contributing to a global system capable of manipulating the environment? And what if the technology we see at HAARP is only a prototype for something far more powerful? Consider this. The ionosphere isn't just a natural barrier, it's also a medium for transmitting energy. Some theorists suggest that HAARP's experiments might be part of a larger effort to create ionospheric weapons, devices that could beam energy to specific locations around the globe. Imagine a weapon capable of targeting a region with intense heat, disrupting its ecosystem, or even disabling its electrical grid. And it doesn't stop there. Some speculate that HAARP could be linked to projects involving electromagnetic waves that influence the human brain. Could this technology affect thoughts, emotions, or even behavior? The idea might seem outlandish, but it's worth remembering that governments have a history of experimenting with mind control technologies. Programs like MKUltra were dismissed as conspiracy theories until declassified documents proved their existence. Adding to the mystery is HAARP's classified research. While the facility publishes some findings, much of its work remains hidden behind a wall of secrecy. Why? If HAARP is purely a scientific endeavor, why are so many of its experiments cloaked in confidentiality? What discoveries have been made that we're not allowed to know? Critics argue that HAARP's true power may not lie in its energy output, but in its precision. By targeting specific areas with pinpoint accuracy, even small disturbances could have cascading effects. A slight nudge to the ionosphere could theoretically alter the course of a storm, shift the path of a jet stream, or disrupt weather patterns across an entire continent. And then there's the potential for unintended consequences. Even if HAARP's experiments are as benign as its supporters claim, tampering with the ionosphere is playing with forces we barely understand. Could HAARP's activities trigger unforeseen reactions in the atmosphere or disrupt the delicate balance of Earth's ecosystems? Skeptics dismiss these ideas, insisting that HAARP is nothing more than a misunderstood research facility. But the lack of transparency, the military funding, and the parallels to earlier classified projects, like Operation Popeye and MKUltra, suggest otherwise. What if HAARP is a prototype, a testing ground for technology we can't even begin to comprehend? What if it's the tip of an iceberg, a glimpse into a future where the forces of nature are no longer natural but engineered? The science behind HAARP raises more questions than answers. Is it a tool for understanding the ionosphere, or a weapon disguised as research? And if the facility is as harmless as its defenders claim, why are so many of its capabilities hidden from public view? The truth about HAARP remains elusive, cloaked in a mix of science, secrecy, and speculation. But as we've learned from history, the line between reality and conspiracy is often far thinner than we're led to believe. What lies beneath the surface of this enigmatic facility could reshape our understanding of the world and our place in it. If HAARP is as harmless as its defenders claim, why has so much of its existence been steeped in secrecy? From its very inception, HAARP has been surrounded by classified documents, restricted access, and a wall of denials that raises more questions than it answers. Why would a facility dedicated to scientific research need to operate like a covert military installation? The funding alone is enough to spark suspicion. HAARP wasn't financed by academic institutions or civilian organizations. It was built with money from the Air Force, the Navy, and DARPA. These agencies are synonymous with classified projects and cutting-edge weapons development. Why would they invest millions of dollars into what they describe as a peaceful research station? Could HAARP be part of a larger, undisclosed agenda? History provides plenty of reasons to be skeptical. The U.S. government has a long track record of hiding the true nature of its projects. Consider Operation Popeye, a secret attempt to weaponize the weather during the Vietnam War. Or MKUltra, a program designed to explore mind control, kept hidden from the public for decades. Even the Manhattan Project, which developed the first nuclear weapons, was conducted in near total secrecy until its devastating effects were unleashed. Is HAARP the latest chapter in this ongoing story of covert innovation? One of the most glaring examples of HAARP's secrecy is its temporary shutdown in 2014. Officially, this was due to budget cuts and a transfer of operations to the University of Alaska. But conspiracy theorists have suggested other possibilities. Was HAARP closed to upgrade its technology? Was its research moved underground, away from public scrutiny? Or was the closure simply a smokescreen to divert attention? Adding to the mystery are the strange phenomena reported near the facility. Residents in nearby areas have described low-frequency hums, electronic disruptions, and unexplained lights in the sky. These anomalies are often dismissed as natural or coincidental, but for critics, they're evidence of experiments that stretch far beyond what the official narrative admits. And then there's HAARP's remote location. Why build a research station in Gakona, Alaska, far from major universities or scientific hubs? Supporters argue that the isolation helps reduce interference with experiments. But skeptics suggest another reason: secrecy. A facility in such a remote location is harder to monitor, harder to infiltrate, and easier to control. Even on a global scale, HAARP has drawn suspicion. Russia and China have both accused the United States of using HAARP for environmental warfare. In 2014, a Russian documentary claimed that HAARP could trigger earthquakes, create droughts, and destabilize entire regions. While these accusations are often dismissed as propaganda, they echo concerns raised by independent researchers worldwide. Critics argue that HAARP's secrecy is its greatest flaw. If the facility is genuinely harmless, why not make its research fully transparent? Why not open its doors to independent scientists, journalists, or even the public? The refusal to do so only fuels speculation that HAARP has something to hide. Could the secrecy itself be part of a larger strategy? Some theorists suggest that HAARP might be a distraction, a red herring designed to draw attention away from even more advanced and secretive technologies. If HAARP is the project we know about, what other facilities might be operating in complete obscurity? And then there's the ultimate question: who controls HAARP? Is it truly managed by civilian scientists, or is it overseen by the same military agencies that funded its creation? And if the military is involved, what are their goals? Are they exploring the limits of weather manipulation, testing the effects of ionospheric tampering, or developing weapons that we can't even begin to imagine? The secrecy surrounding HAARP isn't just an inconvenience, it's a warning. In a world where technology advances faster than our ability to understand its consequences, what does it mean when projects like HAARP operate in the shadows? Are we witnessing the birth of a new frontier in science? Or are we staring into the abyss of technologies that could reshape the world without our knowledge or consent? HAARP's cloak of secrecy has made it a magnet for conspiracy theories, but it has also ensured one thing: until the full truth is revealed, speculation will only grow. And as history has shown, the more a project is hidden, the more likely it is that something extraordinary or terrifying is being concealed. For every alarming claim about HAARP, there is a chorus of voices eager to dismiss it as nothing more than paranoia and pseudoscience. Skeptics argue that the theories surrounding HAARP, the weather control, earthquakes, and mind manipulation, are not grounded in reality. But are these dismissals genuine scientific rebuttals? Or are they part of a broader effort to deflect attention from what HAARP might truly represent? At the heart of the skeptics' argument is the question of scale. HAARP, they say, simply doesn't have the power to achieve the dramatic effects attributed to it. The energy it generates, while significant for studying the ionosphere, pales in comparison to the forces required to manipulate hurricanes, shift tectonic plates, or create droughts. Critics point out that hurricanes are driven by ocean temperatures and atmospheric pressure, while earthquakes result from tectonic movement deep beneath the Earth's surface. By this reasoning, HAARP's capabilities are no match for the immense natural forces at work. Take the 2010 Haiti earthquake. Skeptics dismiss the idea that HAARP had anything to do with it, pointing out that similar seismic activity has been observed in the region for centuries. The strange lights in the sky, often cited as evidence of HAARP's involvement, are explained as earthquake lights, a known natural phenomenon caused by electrical discharges in the atmosphere. To skeptics, this is definitive proof that HAARP is being unfairly blamed for natural events. Likewise, skeptics reject the idea that HAARP can influence weather. While cloud seeding has been used to encourage rainfall, altering jet streams or intensifying storms would require energy far beyond what HAARP can produce. They argue that even the largest human-made devices are insignificant compared to the power of nature. But for every claim of scientific impossibility, critics of the skeptics raise another question: are these explanations too convenient? Governments and their scientific advisors have a long history of downplaying controversial projects, right up until the moment they can no longer deny them. Could the dismissal of HAARP's alleged capabilities be part of a larger strategy to discredit those who dare to question it? Adding to the suspicion is the fact that many of HAARP's defenders are tied to the very institutions that funded its creation. When military-backed scientists insist that HAARP is harmless, how impartial can their testimony really be? And why do so many of their arguments hinge on the assumption that the public has full knowledge of HAARP's capabilities? Even some skeptics acknowledge that HAARP's experiments could have unintended consequences. Heating the ionosphere, even in small increments, might produce ripple effects that are difficult to predict. Could these disturbances have side effects on weather patterns, seismic activity, or even the planet's magnetic field? And what about the secrecy? Even the most diehard skeptics can't ignore the fact that much of HAARP's work is classified. If the facility is purely a scientific endeavor, why aren't its findings fully transparent? Why does so much of its activity remain hidden behind government oversight? Could the secrecy itself be an admission that there's more to HAARP than we're being told? Some skeptics go a step further, suggesting that the attention on HAARP might be intentional, a diversion to keep the public focused on one facility while even more advanced technologies operate in the shadows. If HAARP is what we know about, what might exist that we don't? The skeptic's perspective raises valid points, but it also leaves room for doubt. If HAARP's capabilities are as limited as they claim, why the involvement of military agencies? Why the secrecy? And why do strange coincidences, unexplained energy readings, mysterious lights, and global disasters keep circling back to this facility in Alaska? In the end, the skeptics provide a voice of reason, but even reason cannot fully explain the enigma of HAARP. Whether it's a misunderstood research project or the tip of a technological iceberg, one thing is certain: the questions surrounding HAARP are far from resolved. The truth may lie somewhere between skepticism and belief, but as long as the full story remains untold, HAARP will continue to occupy a shadowy space where science and conspiracy collide. And in that space, anything feels possible. HAARP is more than a facility. It's a symbol of the unknown. For decades, it has stood as a beacon for those who believe the forces of nature are no longer beyond human control, and as a target for those who insist it's nothing more than misunderstood science. But regardless of where you stand, one thing is clear. HAARP forces us to confront the possibilities of technology, power, and secrecy in ways that shake the very foundation of what we know. What if weather manipulation isn't just a theory but a reality? What if the hurricanes that devastate our coastlines, the droughts that ravage entire nations, or the earthquakes that strike without warning are not entirely natural? Could HAARP, or something like it, be wielding the power of the earth itself as a weapon? The implications are staggering. In the wrong hands, weather control could become the ultimate tool of war, capable of destroying economies, destabilizing regions, and even rewriting the map of human civilization. Entire nations could be brought to their knees without a single bullet being fired. And if this technology exists, who decides how it's used? Governments? Corporations? Shadowy organizations operating in the dark? And then there's the secrecy. HAARP's shroud of classified experiments and military oversight raises questions that cannot be ignored. Why are so many aspects of its operations hidden from public view? Why has it been linked to some of the most devastating disasters of our time? And why, even as skeptics dismiss the claims, do so many nations express open concern about its true purpose? The answers are elusive, but the questions themselves are worth asking. Because HAARP isn't just about science or conspiracy, it's about the power of the unknown and the lengths we'll go to keep it hidden. But perhaps the most chilling thought of all is this. If HAARP represents what we know, what might exist that we don't? Could there be other facilities, more advanced technologies, and even greater powers at play, operating entirely beyond the scope of public awareness? The truth about HAARP remains locked behind gates, hidden in classified files, and shrouded in layers of denial. But history has shown us that secrets rarely stay buried forever. The question is, when the truth finally comes to light, will we be ready for what it reveals? Until then, we're left with speculation, suspicion, and a world that feels just a little less certain. But perhaps that's the point. HAARP reminds us that the line between science and conspiracy is thinner than we'd like to admit, and that the forces shaping our world may be far more complex and far more controlled than we've ever imagined. The sky above, the ground beneath, the storms, the quakes, they've always been mysteries. But what if there's something else entirely? What if they're not just natural forces, but part of a game we don't even know we're playing? The truth, as always, is out there. The question is, are you ready to find it?